Imagine this. You meet someone, and within hours, it feels like you've known them for lifetimes. The conversations flow like a river returning to its source. Their pain echoes in your bones. Their joy lights up your chest. You think, this must be a soul connection, something divine destined beyond explanation. But what if you're wrong? What if that magnetic pull isn't the universe whispering secrets, but your own wounds calling out for recognition? What if the intensity you mistake for depth is just the echo of unmet needs, disguised as transcendence? This is the great illusion of the empath, the haunting confusion between trauma bonding and true soul connection. Think about it. Have you ever been drawn to someone whose chaos felt familiar? Their storms mirrored yours. Their broken edges fit your own like jagged puzzle pieces. It wasn't peace you found in them. It was recognition, a reflection. And in that reflection, you thought you saw a destiny. But destiny doesn't always wear the face of healing. Sometimes, it wears the mask of repetition. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the unconscious parts of ourselves we refuse to face, the wounds we bury alive. And when we meet someone who carries our same buried pain, it doesn't feel like meeting a stranger. It feels like coming home. But is it home or a haunted house dressed in nostalgia? The empath, with their heightened sensitivity, is especially vulnerable to this deception. They mistake intensity for intimacy, shared suffering for sacred union. They believe the trembling in their chest is the universe saying yes, when really, it's their nervous system screaming, I know this pain. So here's the great question. How much of what you call soul connection is just the ghost of your past, wearing another person's skin? And more terrifying still, if you untangled yourself from these bonds, who would you be without them? Would you feel empty, adrift, or finally free? The answer lies not in the stars, but in the shadows. And the first step is daring to look. The confusion between trauma bonding and soul connection isn't an accident. It's a psychological trap, carefully laid by our own unconscious. At its core, this illusion thrives on two powerful forces, the repetition compulsion and the shadow self. Sigmund Freud first named the repetition compulsion, the unconscious drive to recreate familiar wounds, as if by reliving them, we might finally conquer them. But we don't conquer them. We just dig the groove deeper. Carl Jung took it further. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. And that's exactly what happens. When an empath meets someone whose pain resonates with their own, it doesn't feel like chance. It feels like fate. But what if fate, in these moments, is just a shadow self-whispering? Here is what you know. Here is where you belong. The empath, wired for depth and meaning, misinterprets his resonance as something sacred. They believe the ache they feel is proof of a higher connection, when really, it's proof of an unhealed wound. Viktor Frankl, survivor of the Holocaust and pioneer of existential psychology, argued that suffering ceases to be suffering the moment it finds meaning. And so, the empath does what they do best. They assign meaning. They tell themselves this pain is special, that this bond is transcendent, that this person, this relationship, is different. But Nietzsche warned us, if you stare long enough into the abyss stares back into you. And that's the danger. The more an empath stares into the abyss of another's pain, the more it becomes their own. The lines blur. The bond tightens. What began as empathy morphs into enmeshment, a fusion where neither person is saved, but both are drowned. Society worships this narrative. We call it passion. We call it twin flames. We call it love. But what if it's just addiction to intensity, to familiarity, to the illusion of being needed? The truth is brutal. Trauma bonds feel like soul connections because they hijack the same mechanisms, yearning, intensity, the promise of wholeness. But a soul connection should lift you, not chain you. It should expand you, not consume you. So why can't we tell the difference? Because the shadow loves its own reflection. And until we face what's hidden, we'll keep calling our prisons home. The most dangerous lies are the ones we don't realize we believe. When trauma bonding masquerades as soul connection, it doesn't just distort a single relationship. It rewires your entire perception of love, worthiness, and purpose, like a drop of ink in water. The confusion spreads silently, coloring everything. Neurologically, the effect is startlingly similar to addiction. The intermittent reinforcement of highs and lows, moments of euphoric closeness followed by withdrawal, chaos, or abandonment, creates a dopamine-driven cycle. Your brain learns to crave the very thing that harms you, mistaking intensity for meaning. Studies on attachment show that anxious, preoccupied individuals, common among empaths, exhibit heightened activity in brain regions associated with obsession when recalling turbulent relationships. In other words, your biology conspires against your discernment, but the damage runs deeper than biochemistry. Every time you rationalize a trauma bond as destiny, you reinforce a catastrophic belief that love must hurt to be real. This becomes your romantic blueprint, an unconscious checklist where toxicity is misread as passion, enmeshment as intimacy, and suffering as devotion. Culturally, we've been conditioned to romanticize this very distortion. From Romeo and Juliet to modern toxic love pop songs, we're fed narratives that equate possession with passion, jealousy with desire, and dysfunction with depth. Even spiritual circles often glorify the twin flame mythology, a framework that can dangerously reframe abuse as karmic lessons and emotional roller coasters as divine tests. The collateral damage? Erosion of self-trust. Each time you override your intuition to sustain the bond, you become a stranger to yourself. Repetition compulsion incarnate. Unresolved patterns replay across friendships, careers, even spiritual seeking, always in new disguises. Spiritual bypassing, using concepts like unconditional love or soul contracts to justify tolerating the intolerable. Worst of all, it blinds you to genuine connections. Real soul connections often feel unsettlingly calm at first. No fireworks of dysfunction. No addictive push-pull. Like coming ashore after years lost at sea, the stability can feel wrong to a nervous system conditioned to equate love with storms. Many empaths walk right past these quieter bonds, chasing the familiar ache instead. This is how the cycle self-perpetuates, by making healing feel like boredom and chaos feel like home. The escape begins with single, radical realization. You are not breaking a bond. You are breaking a spell. This is not about willpower. It's about awakening, about seeing the invisible threads that have tied you to pain disguised as purpose. Step 1. Rewrite your definition of love. Love is not a battlefield. It is not a rescue mission. It is not a furnace that burns away your boundaries until nothing remains but fused ash. Begin here. What if real love feels safe before it feels exciting? Study secure attachment like a foreign language. Notice how your body reacts to consistency, the discomfort, the suspicion, the impulse to sabotage. That resistance is your compass, pointing directly toward what you need to heal. Step 2. Decode your attraction patterns. Make a list of the last 3 people who felt like soul connections. Now, beside each name, the specific flavor of their pain, abandonment, narcissism, addiction, how it mirrored your childhood wounds, the lies you told yourself to keep the bond alive. I can heal them. This intensity means we're meant to be. This is your shadow curriculum. These are the lessons your soul actually chose not to suffer with them, but to see yourself through them. Step 3. Withdraw from the drug of intensity. Go cold turkey on emotional chaos. For 90 days, avoid deep conversations with unavailable people. Delete the contact you keep rereading. When the withdrawal hits, it will. Don't confuse loneliness for truth. Your nervous system is detoxing. The boredom is progress. Step 4. Reclaim your energy. Every empath has a superpower they've been misusing. The ability to feel others' emotions as their own. Redirect that skill inward. Try this experiment. For 1 week, every time you're tempted to obsess over someone else's pain, ask instead, where am I abandoning myself today? What emotion am I avoiding by focusing on theirs? If this person vanished tomorrow, who would I become? Step 5. Rewire with new experiences. Seek out connections that defy your old patterns. The friend who doesn't need saving. The creative project that terrifies you is quiet joy. The therapist who won't let you spiritualize your suffering. This is how you build a new gravitational pull, not toward pain, but toward wholeness. The rebellion isn't against toxic people. It's against a version of you that believed they were the key to your soul. Here is the secret you've been circling your entire life. There is no such thing as a soulmate. Only the souls you meet along the way while remembering yourself. The cosmic joke is this. You thought your deepest connections were about them. They were never about them. Every bond, every magnetic pull, every heartbreak, all were mirrors showing you where you had abandoned yourself. The first layer of truth. You were never looking for love. You were looking for proof. Proof that you were worthy. Proof that your pain meant something. Proof that you weren't alone in the dark. But no person could ever give you this. Not because they failed you, but because you asked them to perform magic. You demanded they resurrect the parts of you that you had buried alive. The second layer. Trauma bonds are spiritual counterfeits. They mimic enlightenment's symptoms. The ego dissolution of enmeshment feels like oneness. The adrenaline of chaos feels like passion. The Stockholm syndrome of attachment feels like unconditional love. This is why breaking free feels like spiritual death. You're not just leaving a person. You're dismantling an entire cosmology where suffering was sacred. The final revelation, your real soul contract. It was never with them. It was with you. The universe didn't send these bonds to punish you, but to show you where you still believed love had to hurt. Each one was a holographic lesson. The narcissist taught you where you worshipped false gods. The avoidance showed you where you feared your own wholeness. The addict mirror where you thought emptiness could be filled from outside. Now the veil lifts. The pattern emerges. All along, your soul wasn't seeking connection. It was practicing discernment, the new alchemy. From now on, measure connections by this metric. Does this person's presence make me more or less able to hear my own soul? Real connections will feel like a quiet homecoming to yourself. Energy expanding rather than depleting. Freedom growing rather than shrinking. You'll know them not by the thunder they bring, but by the silence they leave behind, a silence that finally sounds like peace. The invitation. Close your eyes. Breathe. Feel the truth humming under your skin. The love that terrified you with its gentleness wasn't boring. It was a first taste of what happens when you stop confusing crucifixion for communion. The bonds that felt like fate were never your destination. They were the bridges you built to bring yourself home. Now step onto new ground. The miracle wasn't finding them. The miracle is finding you in the wreckage.